I don't care who you are, where you live, how much money you make. The single greatest remedy for every ailment, this is a Jordan Peterson quote, the single greatest remedy for every ailment on earth is truth. I'm going to repeat that. The single greatest remedy for every ailment, pain, fear, frustration, remorse, depression, is truth. Period. If you're struggling in your relationship, I bet you $1,000 it's because you're not fucking communicating. If there's contention, if your sex life sucks, I bet you $10,000 you're not communicating. And not being like, yo, dude, baby, I want to, but I'm talking about connection. I'm talking about real truth. We don't do that. Why? Because we've been programmed not to. They're literally, it sounds really simple because a lot of people want to make it more complex. A lot of people love the fucking agony. There's a lot of people maybe listening to this that are not addicted to something. You're addicted to the story. You're fucking addicted to a story. I'm addicted. That's a story, right? Because you literally have the ability to never pop another pill, never take another drink, never look at somebody fucking naked again. You literally have that ability. So saying I'm addicted, it's a story. So the real question is like, what do you want, right? If you want to quit something, tell the truth. But what do? We butter it up with, well, I have daddy issues, or I have this, or I have that, or I have all of these things. And what I'm finding fascinating is that people are literally addicted to destructive patterns. They're addicted to destructive patterns. And it's not even the thing that they're really engaging in that's got them. It's the story. It's literally rewriting the story. I'll give you an example. I hate snakes. I fucking hate snakes, okay? I just don't like them. They're fucking slimy, slithery creatures. My buddy, he breeds them. He came through the Lions on Sheep experience, and who the fuck, he's got some serious screws loose, whatever. He breeds them. He's got like 150 of them. He sells these exotic snakes. I'd go up there and I'd hang out and he'd give me like a little baby one. And I'm like, yo, and it's just crawling around. It's little, it couldn't even fucking bite me. Its mouth's not even big enough. And I'm like, fuck, okay, take it back. One day I'm like, I call him, I'm like, dude, I want a snake. And he's like, what? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I want a fucking snake. And I just had some moment, and maybe it was a lapse in judgment or something. Anyways, a couple of days later, he shows up with this little plastic thing and the little water bowl and this little fucking snake like this big. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, look, you got to take it out. You got to play with it. You feed it every 2 weeks. Here's a little bag of mice, the whole deal. We're great. He ends up leaving. A couple minutes later, I go over to this little fucker. I pull him out and I'm like holding it. I'm like, initially I was like terrified. I was like, what the fuck? And he starts crawling and slithering and he's going around my neck and the head. And I kid you not, bro, I'm 42 years old. I've hated snakes since I was a child. This snake comes up on my arm and it's on my hand and he like picks his head up and does like the little snake thing. And he's looking at me and it was that moment where I was like, fuck, I'm going to die. He's going to kill me right here. And I'm looking at this snake and I'm like, why am I afraid of this little fucker doesn't know me anymore than I know it. Like, what am I afraid of? And I kid you not, I had this spiritual experience with this snake. Because I'm like, why am I afraid of this snake? I've never had a traumatic experience with a snake. And most people, I asked this literally from stage in front of 1,000 people. How many of you have ever had like a boa constrictor wrap around your fucking neck and almost kill you so that you have a traumatic? You don't. You just naturally have been programmed. I hate snakes. Why? Because maybe your mom hated snakes, or your dad hated snakes, or your family just fucking hated snakes. And that was what it was embedded in your brain. You've never had a snake. You've never owned a snake. You've never even had a traumatic experience with a snake. Why do you hate snakes? And I literally, in that moment, this is last year, I like broke down, man. And I started looking at things and I was like, holy shit. How many things am I telling myself? How many stories have I been telling myself, perhaps for my entire life, that aren't even real? You have people that say they're terrified of sharks that have never even swam in the ocean. How the fuck are you terrified of sharks? Because somebody told you to be? Because you watched a TV show and someone else was scared of snakes? Like, we literally live in a world of programming and patterns. And in that moment, I realized, dude, and now I love the snake. My snake's big. I play with it all the time. I fucking love this little guy. Literally rewrote an entire reality for me. It took me 42 years. But in the last 12 months, every aspect of my life, I've just started looking at. right? Both of my parents are fat. You'll appreciate this from bodybuilding. Both of my parents are fat, which means what? 0.000% chance that I could ever have a six pack. Why? Genetically, my parents are fat. The only people that have six packs are motherfuckers that go to the gym and spend 6 hours a day there. That was a story that I told myself for 40 fucking years. And then I took on this challenge called 75 Hard, and I got ripped as shit. And I had a six pack, a very defined six pack. And I still have my fucking six pack 2.5 years later. I rewrote the entire fucking story. And it's knowing that the truth is my parents are fat, but I'd never built a six pack before. And once I did it, I was like, oh shit, I did it. That was just a fucking story. And I had never gone down the threshold of buying a snake, really engaging with a snake, to realize I wasn't scared of snakes, or that I could build the body that I want. And you start processing this conversation and realizing everything from addiction to fears. It's just rewriting a fucking story.